I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Like you, be strong to hold the powers of the sun. Can I be your superhero?
Hello, welcome to The Revealing. I'm your host, Pavarotti, and I'm here to discuss the Idaho 4 case. And, you know, the more I think about all the new information that we got in this case, and then I revisit all the things that we know, I start putting everything together, and then I just can't stop until I feel like I've got everything put together in a sound theory that matches the evidence at hand. And while we're waiting on all of the discovery and the things that we've wanted to see for so long to be released, well, I think it's key to have a sound theory before things are released so that you can go through and either prove or disprove your theory. So, and I've noticed that I've had a lot of people ask me, because I did make the statement that I had seen things that told me that Brian Kohberger could possibly have been involved in this, and I kind of held him back from you. And I don't want to do that anymore, because I believe the things that I see that could have suggested Kohberger could have been a part of it was key in them setting up Brian Kohberger. And that's why I didn't really want to go through and point out those things, because most people don't have the ability to look at something for what it is. They have the ability to look at it. You know, I listen to people out there say Occam's razor all the time. Unfortunately, Occam's razor, the people that keep saying that, they're the only people, or they're people that only have the capacity to understand Occam's razor. If the simplest answer isn't the truth, then they're lost. So if it's not Occam's razor, they're lost. So when I go into some things in this case, I mean, I'm really looking at it on another level. And if I'm not careful when I put things out, it could suggest to an Occam razor mind that the simplest answer is the truth, and the simplest answer would be, well, it's just Kohberger did it. And I never wanted to put that across. So, but in this, I do want you to understand exactly what I believe happened. That I believe the evidence in this case shows, from statements of Brian Kohberger, statements of, you know, what we know from facts in the case, all the way to the new information we learned about the DoorDash driver, all the way to what Bill Thompson said in that plea hearing. And I want to kind of bring it all together and show you exactly what my theory is on how this thing happened. I believe that they set Kohberger up. I've said this from the beginning. I believe that they took extra steps to make sure he was set up. And in the end, the extra steps they took to make sure he was set up were probably steps that really made him look guilty in this case. If you weren't familiar with all the other things, like the fact of gun rack guy going in right at the right time, the vehicle leaving out at 423, the that's it guy at 459 or 501. I mean, there's so many other things. And the fact that, and I'll get into this in another video, how all of these people suggest that, you know, Brian Kohberger, that Xana walked upstairs, or he ran into her in the kitchen. I mean, I'm going to demolish that, because there is no factual evidence around that. And I believe that to be wrong in so many ways. And I can destroy that in so many ways, but just not in this video. In this video, I want to give you a clear determination using all the facts and everything that I believe measures out to the second on what I believe happened that night as it relates to Brian Kohberger. So keep an open mind. This is what Pav truly believes. I believe the evidence shows that the DoorDash driver, who lives somewhere in this area on Garfield, would have left their residence, headed down to 3rd Street right here, which is the main road in Moscow, head all the way across 270 right through town in Moscow, continued across the main highway here, and follow a route that we know they're familiar with because we've seen in body cam footage. If they take the road to airport, they've actually been pulled over on this very route before. We've seen body cam footage, so this is more than likely their desired route when they take this route into Pullman. But I believe this was a white vehicle, probably the one found up in Eugene, Oregon. And as it goes past the airport, where there's no footage of Wendy.com catching it driving, and it would come down here to Terview Road, where we've seen them pulled over before. And as they come into town heading for the Jack in the Box, the time frames are just so odd. They could have taken Grimes and then south on Olympia, which would have taken them straight to Northeast Nevada Street, where they would have crossed right here at 244, caught on camera going north on Southeast Nevada Street. Headed straight through this neighborhood, and the time frame is absolutely perfect to where they would have reached this Jack in the Box right here sometime between 2:44 and 2:53. They pick up the food. Kohberger is leaving his apartment about right now, but they pick up the food and they head back down the same way they came, where they're seen again crossing Stadium Way on Southeast Nevada Street at 253. We know now those are not Kohberger's car. And 253 just happens to be when MM calls BF. Is that Molly McMichael? Do we now know? Very odd. They would continue on the same way that they came, back up Tear, onto Airport Road, past the airport where Wendy.com video footage was never collected. Continue on their way, which would put them back on the highway here at Floyd Cannabis Shop at exactly the right time, where a white vehicle is caught on camera at 3:02 a.m. at Floyd Cannabis Shop. There's no doubt this was planned. The vehicle would head right back through Moscow, where all the missing video footage is, at Red Star Coffee and 3 other businesses. And then it would continue back to the residence there on Garfield. After a few minutes at the residence on Garfield, they would have simply headed back south over one street and then back south all the way, straight across and down until they reached Indian Hills Boulevard, which almost puts them there at the exact perfect time. As they come across Indian Hills, and they would be caught on camera at Indian Hills, 3 different cameras at 3:26. And then they would have continued on, but here's where it gets a little weird. As they continue on from Indian Hills up to Steiner, we know that the time frame is just a little bit off. As we go up here to Steiner and we hang a left, and we know the next camera footage that captures them is at 3:28 on Steiner, but we're going to get a little bit more specific. Because when we look right here on the last camera that captures them on Indian Hills, the FBI report clearly states that 755 Indian Hills Drive, they were caught at 3:26:43. And that is right here. The next place that they're captured is up here at Steiner at the A&W Root Beer, but that's 328.56 where they're caught at the A&W on 1311 South Main Street. So that's 2 minutes and 13 seconds to get from here to here, and that doesn't compute with the actual timed drive, as you'll see right here. There's about 45 seconds missing. So when you see the vehicle heading up Indian Hills towards Steiner, going at a pretty good rate of speed here, we're going to time it out to where the last sighting on Indian Hills till we reach the 1311 Sunset Mart video camera footage. We're going to see how long it should have taken them. And again, this is going a little faster probably than you would expect. He's coming up, or she's coming up, one of the two. Indian Hills still, and we're about to reach Steiner, where we're going to hang a left. Here's Steiner. All right, we're going to hang a left on Steiner here. Now we're heading down Steiner towards the Sunset Mart, the A&W Root Beer gas station, and where the vehicle would next be caught on camera. And let's see, we're at 1:15 now, going fairly quick. And we're going to come up to where the vehicle would have been caught on camera right here. Looks like 1:29. But that's going to leave us about 45 seconds of missing time between the Indian Hills camera and the Steiner camera. Now, that 45 seconds, I believe, is critical, because in between the Indian Hills camera and the Steiner camera, we now know is Janelle's house, the friend of the DoorDash driver that I put everywhere, her house right here. And I believe that time, that additional 45 seconds is more than enough time for that vehicle to have stopped and dropped off the food and then continued on. And if this is a setup as I believe, this white car would have been making these next passes to create a timeline of this white car making those passes. Now, remember, this is 3:30 and 22 seconds. Kohberger left his apartment at 2:45 and he headed towards Wawawe. They know this. 3:30 and 55 seconds. He comes around and is caught on the Linda Lane footage. He knows exactly where he's going. 3:31 and 18 seconds. He stops here behind the Queen Road Apartments. He or she sits there for a minute, and then he's going to drive off, coming around to 1112 King Road, where he's caught at 3:33:01 on camera, and then pulls out of the neighborhood, and this time is going to go south on Walenta, where he's caught headlights on trees at 3:33:36. This is all off of the FBI report. Heads east on Ridge, all the way down to Paradise, where there are actually two cameras on one house, and they both catch him at 3:35:13 and 14 heading west. So he circles around and comes back up, back through the neighborhood, back on to Walenta, where he heads north and caught headlights on trees here at 3:38:12. And then this time I'm going to go right back into the neighborhood and make another pass. Now again, this pass at 3:38:34 is caught at 1112. Again, the pass at 3:39:07 is caught at Linda Lane. Headlights on trees are going to catch it at 3:39:35. Sit there for a minute, and then is going to pull out. where the vehicle is going to be caught at 1112 Queen Road camera or King Road camera at 3:40 and 24 seconds. And then this time it's going to pull out and again head south on Walenta and follow a similar path. 34101, headlights on trees. Continuing down all the way to Paradise again. Where it's caught at Paradise at 343.46. And then it's going to head back up. Back to Walenta, where it's going to be caught headlights on trees at 345.07. Doesn't pull into the King Road neighborhood, more than likely pulls into the Taylor Road apartments. We won't know until we get to 1320 missing footage of Linda Lane for sure, but then it pulls out, heads back south, caught on camera 347.08, headlights on trees. It's going to do one more similar path as it did before, where it comes down to Paradise and it's going to be caught making a U-turn. Again, headlights on trees. And as it comes back up this time, it's going to take its time, or it's going to make a stop in here somewhere. Nobody really knows for sure. But this time it's not going to pull into the King Road neighborhood again. It's caught headlights on trees at 350. It's going to pull more than likely into the Taylor Road apartments again. Now it's going to pull out of the Taylor Road apartments. It's going to go past the King Road neighborhood, get caught headlights on trees here at 351. Then an error in the FBI report right here is the vehicle will stop. Another vehicle is going to come down south on Walenta, headlights on trees, because it's impossible for that to be the same vehicle due to time and video constraints. But then the vehicle is going to come back up. At 353.36, it's caught headlights on trees. It's going to pull into the likely Taylor Road apartments again. And after a minute there, it's going to pull out and it's going to come back and make the third pass in the King Road neighborhood. Again, this pass is going to be very similar to the other passes. Knows exactly what he's doing. 356.24 at 1112 King. He's going to continue around where he's caught on camera at Linda Lane, 356.57. He's going to continue around to where he's caught on camera at 357.27 behind the King Road residence, headlights on trees. Now, they're going to want to say the DoorDash driver pulled in now, but we know that's not the case because of the work of Mark B and the fact that we hear the chirping beep of the DoorDash driver at 340. So the vehicle is going to pull out, caught on camera again, 358.23. And as it continues to go, it's going to go down Walenta. At this point, I believe the DoorDash driver leaves Janelle's house, comes across Taylor, back down into the Queen Road neighborhood, parks at the King Road address. You see headlights on trees for the vehicle again, heading south on Walenta on the ridge. The DoorDash driver is sitting there making the delivery. And then this vehicle is going to do something weird. It's going to turn around. It's going to come back up. And at 4 o'clock and 14 seconds, headlights on trees. It's not going to turn into the King Road neighborhood. The FBI says this vehicle head straight across. We won't know for sure till we get to 1320 Linda Lane footage. And then it's going to circle around, down louder onto Ridge, where it's caught on two cameras at 401 and 443, and then it never comes out. According to the FBI report, no cameras ever catch it again. Now, let's go back in time to 245. Kohberger is leaving his apartment there on Steptoe in Pullman. he's going to come around and pass that Jack in the Box exactly at the same time I believe the DoorDash driver was getting the Jack in the Box. That's too much of a coincidence for me. And I believe Kohberger could have stopped, met the DoorDash driver, and they could have told him to meet them exactly at 4 a.m. at the King Road residence to complete a transaction, like I've always said. Now, Kohberger continues heading down Wawaway Park. I'm going to try to make the car follow my line here because I'm logging exactly how many miles it is on this trek as I go. So he continues on, heading to his familiar spot at Wawaway. And when he reaches right down here is where the end of the network coverage is, and it's also where they say Kohberger turned off his phone. So he either turned his phone off right here or he hit the end of the network coverage. Either way, I don't think it really matters. Now, from here, I believe Kohberger would have continued on to Wawaway Park, and we're going to continue to follow this drive, and we're going to continue to log these miles as he continues south down to Wawaway. Just like he stated in his alibi, I don't believe they ever lied about anything. I believe he continued south on Wawaway, continued down over to Wawaway Park, and he continued around to Wawaway, where I believe he stopped for a minute and maybe even took a picture, and then he headed back towards Moscow, Idaho from Wawaway, following the same path he took to go in there, except as he comes around, trying to make sure I get these miles logged as accurately as possible. I believe he headed west towards Colton at this point. And I believe the time frame and the miles are going to line up exactly perfect. He comes around to Colton, which would be about right here. Continues heading south through Colton. Well, you can see the path of travel here, which would follow exactly what he said in his alibi statement. And then he would have headed down south to Uniontown. And then once he hit Uniontown, I believe he would have headed east towards 95 on this back road. And as he comes across, he hits 95 here and heads north. As he's coming up north, he's going to get closer to town, where he's going to hit the Y right here, and he's going to go to the west of the Y. This way, all the way up until he hits a cutover street, which is right here. It cuts him over to Sand Road. Now, as he's making the cut over here to Sand by this RV park right here, and he begins to take Sand back up into Moscow, which will connect him right to Palouse River Drive. I believe about right here is where that vehicle made its last pass around the neighborhood, went down to Ridge, and then was never seen from again because they knew this was about the time that Kohberger would have completed his trek and been there right when they told him to be there, just after 4 a.m. Now, as he comes around, that's exactly, what does that say, 61 miles, right at 60 miles. By the time he hits the King Road neighborhood, it'll be 61 miles, which from 254 when he was last caught on camera, that would put him entering the neighborhood almost perfectly at 404, just like you see that last vehicle enter the neighborhood enter. So as he comes around, the miles and the time frame and the drive time puts it perfect for Kohberger to be caught on headlights on trees on Walenta right here. Just like we'll see with this vehicle coming up Conestoga. And right here, 40420. I believe this is Kohberger's car. He's pulling into the neighborhood, and this vehicle doesn't act like the other vehicle at all. He's going to pull through 40456, caught on camera. I believe he sees his hookup right there in the driveway, that DoorDash driver, and whoever's in the car with her. He's going to turn around, and he's going to come back, and he's going to do something right here that tells me the DoorDash driver is still sitting in that driveway. He's going to pretty much
When
stop.
he returns to the front of the house, he does something unusual, so much so that it's noted in the arrest affidavit. On page 6, it states, when the suspect vehicle 1 is in front of Kings Road residence, it appeared to unsuccessfully attempt to park or turn around in the road. It goes on to say that he continued onto the intersection where he did a 3-point turn.
So he stops. The DoorDash driver tells him to meet him behind the Queen Road Apartments. So he makes a 3-point turn, casually drives around where we see him on the Linda Lane footage, caught on camera at 40728. The DoorDash driver pulls around behind the King Road residence. Kohberger pulls up and parks right next to the DoorDash driver to make his deal, 40728. So, as it's accurately depicted in this animation, and you can pretty much tell that that is a different vehicle looking at this footage compared to the other footage of the vehicle circling. That's why they let you have more time to see this vehicle, because they knew this was Kohberger's car. So he does just like the DoorDash driver tells him to, and he pulls around the King Road neighborhood, Queen Road Apartments, pulls right back. Here's Linda Lane where he's caught on camera, pulls back around where he's going to park right next to the DoorDash driver to do his deal. Now, I believe she did park right next to him. He sat there for a few minutes, seen something that scared him. He realized what he probably thought was a robbery in place, so he hit the gas and he got out of there. When he left, he took the same exact route, 42105 on camera, and then heads back south exactly the same way that he drove in. Goes down, hits Palouse, heads west on Sand Road, takes it all the way back down to that RV park. Same exact route he took to get in there at this point. When he hits the RV park down here, he's going to go back the same way that he came. Here's the RV park. He's going to head east, back over to 95, exactly the same way that he came in. And when you time everything out, this times everything out perfect. Now, somewhere south of right here is where either his phone connects to the network or he turns it back on. I imagine he turns it back on because he sends an email to somebody with a secure VPN trying to mask his email. So I'm thinking he sent it to the DoorDash driver trying to figure out what's going on. Then he comes back around the same way he went, but when he gets here, he just heads north straight up into Pullman, where he's caught on camera going back to his apartment the next morning. All the time matches up perfect. And it was kind of weird as I listened to Bill Thompson as he went over the so-called facts in the case during the plea hearing. It's almost as if Bill Thompson knew all of this that I just described to you. But like I've said for a long time, I believe that the defense thought that they were going to corroborate Brian Kohberger's story through his alibi with the DoorDash driver. I always thought the DoorDash driver was Emma Bailey, but turns out it was Molly McMichael and whoever else was in the car with her. So it seems like Kohberger thought the DoorDash driver may have been his friend, and it looks to me like they were integral in actually setting him up for the crime. That's why they never completed that alibi, in my opinion. But let me know your thoughts, and please like and subscribe to the channel. Post your comments, your thoughts, your criticisms. Till next time, Pavarotti's out.